What's up guys, Houndish here, and today it is of course time for the weekly reset in Destiny 2 for July 2nd. We're now heading into week 5 since the launch of the final shape, so we've got a 2-week period right here where things are a little bit quieter than they have perhaps been over the past month, but there's still quite a lot to talk about. So firstly, today we get another update to Destiny 2. This brings a bunch of fixes and changes for Echoes, as well as some final shape updates, so we'll talk about those. We also have the return of Iron Banner for the first time in the episode this week, as well as a little bit of Echoes quest progress. Otherwise though, we'll cover all of the key rewards and unlocks in the game this week, as well as main activities, and we've got vendors like the Eververse inventory, Banshee and Shader 1, so we'll round up all of those as well as some key things to be aware of as we head into this reset. So as always guys, I hope you find the video today useful, and if you do, get subscribed to the channel so I can keep you posted with more Destiny content. Otherwise though, let's get into it. And we should start out by saying we have the return of Iron Banner this week for the first time in the episode. Iron Banner will now last for 2 weeks at a time, so this week it'll be Iron Banner Control, then next week we've got Iron Banner Tribute. And after that, we're probably looking at 7 or 8 weeks until Iron Banner returns. There are a couple of updated cosmetic items, like the emblem and shader that we can pick up this season, as well as an updated Crimmel's Dagger and Claw of the Wolf. So we've got all of that to check out in-game. Let us know if you plan to play the Iron Banner this week, and if you do want a bit more of an in-depth look at some of the rewards, I'll link my previous video down below. Otherwise though, we should also see some Echoes quest progress this week. Now, these won't be main sort of story quest bits, but it'll be one of the research quests, which was supposed to actually drop last week, but was bugged. Apparently that will be fixed for this reset, so if you want to be super up to date with all of that stuff, be sure to complete NES 003, as that should be available at Failsafe. Otherwise, the newly introduced Master Raid and Grandmaster Nightfalls continue their rotations this week, so a few different activities to jump into nonetheless. Up next though, today of course we do get an update. This is 8006, and there are a handful of fixes and changes inside of the patch. So initially, in general, Bungie say they fixed an issue where players could level weapons faster than intended during overthrow. They also fixed an issue where the Heart's Hidden Depths Pathfinder objective could not progress by completing Forgotten Deep and the Broken Deep lost sectors. Then finally, they fixed an issue where the Overthrow boss triumphs did not count specific bosses, so hopefully those will be a little bit easier to track now. Then in the Vanguard playlist, they fixed an issue where Lightfall and Witch Queen expansions were required to access certain Vanguard Ops content. And for the Crucible, they fixed an issue where the Still Hunt Exotic Sniper was getting more special ammo than intended in some modes, another issue where the Ghost mods were erroneously granting bonus rewards for private mode match completions, and one where private mode rumble matches were granting players reputation incorrectly. So those playlists should be able to come back now. Then we get Pathfinder updates. They fixed an issue where the Resonant Synergy challenge does not work with the Prismatic subclass, another where the Light Magnitude node incorrectly mentioned Masterwork weapons as a requirement to generate Orbs of Power, and they reduced the number of ability kills required for the Proof of Ability node from 100 to 25. Then for Dungeons and Raids, and for Salvation's Edge, they extended the timer after the last encounter has been completed. Plus, they fixed an issue where purchasing adept weapons from the vendor on master difficulty did not provide a weapon. Then for the Shattered Throne, they fixed an issue where surges were still applied, so I believe that one will now be active this week. Moving on though, for seasonal stuff and the Enigma protocol, they fixed a problem where sometimes the countdown timer would not appear until the second half of the mission. And of course for Breach Executable, they made a bunch of changes. They fixed some rare crashes, and an issue where the weekly activity challenge wasn't properly tracking expert difficulty completions, another issue where expert level Vex combatants were dealing higher than intended damage, and of course, they made changes to material gathering, so they've reduced the time needed to extract samples, 2 pistons are now always available per run, and navigation points for pistons are now visible from further away, plus they've increased the roaming time available after a player has started the next encounter. Plus, they fixed an issue where the banner for reaching score tiers, Silver, Gold and Platinum, was missing some text. For armor though, they say they've removed Year 6 gear from the Blind Well loot pool, plus for Speaker's Sight, they've disabled the ability to create Orbs of Power in PvP, and they'll be considering ways to approach this in a more balanced way in future, Then for weapons in the Kvostov, they corrected an issue that was significantly reducing recoil, and they reduced the damage of its ricochet shots against players only, so the initial damage bonus is decreased from 15 to 5%, and the bounce impact damage is decreased from 18.4 to 4.6, so that's fairly significant in PvP. Then for Red Death, they reduced the intrinsic stability bonus granted by the custom recoil pattern, and for Hawkmoon, they corrected an issue that allowed it to have more final bullets than intended. Then for the undercurrent grenade launcher, they fixed an issue where the base and adept versions of the weapon could obtain non-waveframe grenade launcher magazine options, and versions that receive the incorrect magazine options will be updated to receive high velocity rounds. Plus, new drops of undercurrent will feature high velocity rounds and implosion rounds as selectable magazine options. Then finally for perks, an air trigger, they corrected an issue that was allowing the perk to apply to any equipped weapon, plus they reduced the aim assist penalty when airborne. And finally for enhanced physic, they fixed an issue where it was providing restoration ×2 instead of restoration ×1, and it now correctly gives increased restoration timers. So there we go guys, there are the main patch notes for the update today, but if you want to check out the full list, it will be linked in the description box below. And now, as we finally get into the game, let's break down the Eververse inventory for the week. So we'll focus on Bright Dust options, as always, and here on the front page we've got Shadowboxing, a rare emote, which is available for 400 Bright Dust. It cancelled my preview right there, but you can always pick that one up if you're feeling slightly violent. There's also the Intrepid Exploit Helm Universal Ornament right here, of course available for all 3 classes. That's up for 1200 Bright Dust this week. Pretty basic stuff, but something to add to collections from back in the day. We also have the Riven Projection Ghost Projection here for 1500 Bright Dust on the front page. Then, for the front page shaders, initially there is Lucid, which is kind of cool right there. These, as always, are 300 Bright Dust, and additionally, we've got Amethyst Bloom available this week as well. Onto the second page of Bright Dust options though, we've got the Experimental Mishap Exotic Emote, which is available for 3250 Bright Dust right there. A pretty cool one if you fancy adding that to collections. I'm sure there's going to be an explosion momentarily. Should we wait and see? There we go, something like that. Pretty cool stuff. There's also the Come At Me, which is a rare emote right here. Once again, a rather standoffish rare emote available in the store for 400 Bright Dust. And then we have the Skidder Shell Exotic Ghost right here, which is somewhat curious. That's 2850 Bright Dust. Plus, there is the Prototype Submersible available right here in the store as well. Another very curious looking one. That one is 2000 Bright Dust. And then there is the Cordyception Exotic Sparrow, if we ever get our preview right here. Oh, I had to read that name twice. I don't know how long I'm going to have to wait for this one. It literally is not showing up, so I guess preview that one in game if you don't know what it looks like. It is 2500 Bright Dust. There's also a Fellwinter's Lie ornament right here available this week. We're not getting previews of any of these now. I'm assuming it's server issues, but that's Blissful Ignorance available for 700 Bright Dust. A pretty cool one from memory. There's also the All Together Now projection, a legendary ghost projection for 1500 Bright Dust. We'll try another preview right here for the Reef Maid shader this week. Yep, doesn't look like it's going to happen. So we've got Reef Maid in the store, as well as the Grayscale Undergrowth, then the Boreal Char, and finally the Groovadelic, which certainly would have been nice to preview, but I guess it's just not going to happen at the moment. All of these shaders, as always though, are 300 Bright Dust, and we've stayed on this page just so that I can show you the fact that it is not letting us preview them for an extended period of time. Finally though, there is the Minotaur Effects Transmat effect, which is 450 Bright Dust, and for the same cost we've got the Chrysalis entrance, and finally the Orrery entrance, which is another new one for this season. So let us know any stuff that you're fancying from the Eververse store this week. We'll take a very quick look at Banshee's featured weapons for the moment though. We've got the False Promises right here with Threat Detector and Eye of the Storm, as well as True Prophecy with Rangefinder Timed Payload, which might be alright. Then there is the 7th Seraph sidearm, which has got full auto and elemental capacitor. They need to take full auto off these weapons for sure. There's also the Soul Survivor with Snapshot and Volt Shot, which could be interesting. Then the Negative Space, which has got Relentless Strikes and Counter Attack, but keep in mind, the featured weapons and roles will certainly change throughout the course of the week. Let's finally go and visit Shader 1 down here in the annex though, just out of curiosity for the featured shaders. Initially there is the Mimic Savior set of gear, so if you're still looking to add this to collections or interested in the stat rolls, you can check in with your various characters. But we've got the Valkyrie Zero shader right here, which is available for 10,000 Glimmer. Oh, we do get a preview. There we go, we finally did it. Pretty cool stuff, despite my mismatched armor. Then there is the Echoes of Io shader available as well, the Warn variant. And finally, the War Cult Scheme, if you're looking to add older faction shaders to collections as well. Once again, all of them costing 10,000 Glimmer. For a final few mentions right here though, the Nightfall this week is Warden of Nothing. We don't have an absolute confirmation just yet as to what the Nightfall weapon will be, as there isn't a specific rotation that we can see until all of them have become available, so we'll learn more about that as we get into the game. For the exotic mission though, we do have Presage available this week, so if you still need to work on crafting a Dead Man's Tail, or to unlock anything associated with that exotic mission, we've got a good few days to do so. And otherwise, the featured raid this week will be Vow of Disciple, where we can pick up the Collective Obligation, as well as the legendary loot pool from that raid, which is completely farmable while it is featured, so if you're playing catch up on any of those items, it should be a useful one. And Shattered Throne is also featured this week as the dungeon. It was actually up last week, but had to be swapped out as the surges were still active and they weren't supposed to be, so we can finally get in there this week unless something else weird happens. But finally, we've got the Lost Sectors right here, and today it is Vel's Labyrinth in the Cosmodrome, plus you can see the additional legendary weapon drops that we can get randomly from those Lost Sectors on the right hand side of the chart. July 3rd will be Exodus Garden 2A, the Broken Deep will be featured on July 4th though in the Pale Heart, and then we'll get Blooming Deep on July 5th and the Forgotten Deep on July 6th. Then it'll move over to Europa with Perdition on July 7th, and finally Bunker E15, which will be featured on July 8th. Those also have the chance to drop exotic engrams on completions now, so if you're looking to level up with Raoul in order to get access to the new exotics from Final Shape, in that way they are still useful if you want to farm. Otherwise, that's everything we have to round up for the weekly reset right here, guys, but as always, we've got loads more Destiny 2 coverage, news, updates, and of course new content for Echoes in a couple of weeks' time, so if you want to stay up to date with all of that, get subscribed, hit the notification bell down below as well, as that way you'll get updates as soon as new content goes live. But if you've enjoyed the video, a rating below very much helps us out, and let us know in the comment section any stuff that you're planning to get wrapped up in the game this week. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in as always, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.